Time for Business. Kate Moody is here, which is great news, starting in Lebanon, which has been thrust into still more economic turmoil this week. Kate, tell us the story.
Well, the president has ordered an investigation into possible currency speculation after the value of the Lebanese pound dropped to record lows. On Tuesday, the black market rate for $1 hit a record £10,000. Just a few months earlier, the average was closer to 7,000. The official exchange rate is $1 to 1,500 Lebanese pounds, but there is a thriving black market for foreign currency. If the central bank investigation finds proof of currency speculation, the president said those responsible should face justice. The pound's collapse has led to soaring food prices. Half the Lebanese population is already living below the poverty line. And as you can see there has been another wave of protests across the country. The UK has outlined more pandemic spending to support businesses and households. The furlough support scheme will be extended to the end of September to avoid mass layoffs. Presenting its 2021 budget, the government said its vaccine rollout would bring an economic recovery some 6 months earlier than initially projected. Official forecasts project GDP will expand 4% this year. And amid growing questions about how to fund the over €470 billion pandemic support plan, the finance minister announced plans to raise the corporate tax rate from its current 19%.
In 2023, the rate of corporation tax paid on company profits will increase to 25%. Even after this change, the United Kingdom will still have the lowest corporation tax rate in the G7.
Let's check in on the day's trading action now. Wall Street has closed down. Tech stocks dragging the Nasdaq down nearly 3% by the closing bell. The S&P 500 dropped 1.3%. The Dow gave up some earlier gains to close down about 0.4% there. We saw mostly higher close for the major European indices, gains of about a third of a percentage point in Paris and Frankfurt. German stocks hit a new record high earlier in the session. The FTSE 100 up nearly 1% as UK businesses rallied on news of that continued government support. Paris Fashion Week kicked off on Monday, but like New York, London and Milan before it, the 2021 edition is taking place almost entirely online. Like many others, the fashion industry has overhauled its business model during the pandemic, as Luke Schrago explains.
What a difference a year makes. From the tightly packed crowds of Paris Fashion Week 2020 to an almost entirely digital edition, where designers have taken things mostly online, and it's been more successful than many would have suspected.
I think there's been a real shift in the balance of power that was already happening. Again, it was happening pre-pandemic, but now there's proof of concept that if you want to ignore Fashion Week, it's probably not going to hurt your bottom line.
Certain labels like Gucci and Tommy Hilfiger sat out Fashion Week entirely this year. Seeking ways to deal with the global supply chain problems and COVID restrictions, going virtual means not just far less in terms of organisation and costs, but opening up Fashion Week to an even wider audience than before, particularly in an industry that's already sought to target younger demographics through social media. Insiders think the changes may just be here to stay, even when things begin getting back to normal.
I think particularly for businesses, this maybe as we go back to shows, we'll have smaller shows. We'll also be thinking about the assets and the way they can engage with these audiences that actually have been big supporters of them through this past year and been championing their creativity and collections and have been an inspiration to the brands and to the designer businesses to really keep them going.
That'll likely be music to ears on the other side of fashion. The entire textile industry is going through an unprecedented economic crisis, with non-essential businesses shuttered for much of the pandemic and orders for both raw material and clothing drying up over the last 12 months.
In-person meetings may be out of the question for the foreseeable future, but Microsoft is trying to bring your colleagues closer to home, quite literally. The tech giant has launched a new service to build apps for people to collaborate in augmented reality, which shows computer-generated images superimposed over the real world. The idea is to allow people to collaborate with coworkers as holograms or even avatars, using either AR headsets or down the road, perhaps personal computers or smartphones. It looks like something out of science fiction, doesn't it, Mark?
That's crazy. I'm just trying to imagine if you applied this hologram technology to our morning meeting here for France 24.
That's the thing, an editorial meeting
Which I
there.
sometimes take part in via something called Teams, an app. I'm not going to sort of give the name of who makes it because that would be advertising. Can you imagine if I turn up in my PJs in the middle of the meeting? It'd be hilarious, wouldn't it?
Well, it's the risk we all run.
cup of
It's
tea.
the risk we all run these days. It would just be a bit more realistic.
Hello, now my idea for a meeting. Oh, no. It could, but what a great thing, though. I mean, where does it end, Kate? Where does it end?
I think it's endless.
Okay, the business ends now. Thank you very much indeed, Kate. Great to see you. Kate Moody with everything business that you could ever want to know.